Hello, shalom. Magadi Zhenyu, which means how are you? Back home in my language. My name is Tinofire from Zimbabwe, Southern Africa. And I'm here, as he said, as I'm a poet and also conducting a research into my family history. And I'd like you to share some of that with you right now. I have quite a number of interests. I'm going to start it off with a sound piece that I did, which is called Grains for Grains of Sand, and maybe it will illustrate maybe the direction of sort of what I'm going to present. So, grains.
The borderline between truth and legend is very thin. It's almost like mixing water and oil. They are separate, but sometimes they kind of interact. I used to believe, like everybody else, you say legend and it's all false. Truth, it's all true. Sometimes truth itself is not quite true. Read the newspaper. Almost 25% of what's written as truth is false. And much of the truth that is left out. I think there is a grain of truth that something like this exists. All I can say that.
So, grains. This piece, I don't know if maybe you might have heard about Ephraim Isaac, Yemenite Jew from based in the States, and he was talking about the Ethiopian Jews, and he had been asked, is it true that the Ethiopian community have Jewish roots? And so this is what he was trying to explain, that from his perspective, that they are grains of truth. It's not that it's a lie. It's not. I think it was sort of talking about collecting these little grains of truth, and not just kind of the little pieces and putting them all together. But so my project, as I said, is built around my family history. It's built around my family history. In Zimbabwe, maybe to start off with, to kind of get this fact, maybe, there is a community that's called the Lemba, who are also called the Black Jews. There's the name of the word Lemba has many meanings, and it's always changed. I think every word, like for example, another name for the Lemba is Varungu, which today means white, which yesterday meant something else. To the prophet, who's a researcher, he says it used to mean the spirits of the dead, and there's these things constantly change, So the Lemba, that's the people that I'm born into. My parents, both my mother and my father, are Lemba, and so there's always been this identity within our family of being Lemba. and within our community. The photo that you see, the first photo is of my mother when she was very young. You know, it's a photograph that I came across in her photo album, and it's her and her sister carrying a hymn book, a Christian hymn book. Now, this book is probably, you know, from the missionaries, and you know, they have these songs that they sing, which are in the hymn book, it's a Shona hymn book, and you know, and it's quite interesting because some of these songs, for me, are not. I don't look at them as Christian or you know, they are for me now memories, and some of the references that they have in them are not specific to a religion, you know. So they are pretty open sometimes. Maybe if I have time, I'll share one of the pieces with you that I recorded. Yeah, and you know, so this is kind of, actually maybe we can talk about how some of this knowledge is passed on within the community of the Lemba. One of the memories that comes to mind is, you know, maybe 3-4 years back, I was in the rural home, or the homeland of the Lemba, which is Mberengwa in Zimbabwe. It's kind of where a lot of the Lemba that you'll find in Zimbabwe have originate from, or at this point have some ancestry. Mberengwa actually means the land or the mountain of good men, you know, so it's quite an interesting thing as well, you know. And so we were in Mberengwa. I was with my uncle and my mother's brother, kind of a very important man in the community, and one of my cousins who is Rastafarian, kind of has Rastafarian leanings. And we were in a car, we were drinking home brew, it was a good day. That's an interesting thing as well, because September is a very important time for the Lemba, because it's sort of coming of age. The Lemba boys go into school, and you know, it depends on when it, you know, was started a long time ago, but now it's, you know, you go for 2-3 weeks of school where you learn who you are, where you came from. And this is when they come out, when they come down from the mountain, we say, because they are there on a mountain for that time. When they come down from the mountain, everyone, it's a celebration and it's a moment. You can feel it. I, up to that point, had never been to my homeland at that time. That was my first time. And, you know, I was quite anxious because it's quite an intense time as well if you haven't been to the mountain, which is another story. But I was talking to my uncle and my Rastafarian cousin in the car, and, you know, I'm a bit of an outsider in that moment because they've, you know, this is their experience yearly, you know. And so one of the questions I asked was, I asked my cousin, I said to him, because he's younger, I said to him, where do you think we come from, you know, where are we from, the Lemba? And so my cousin kind of thinks for a second, and he says, well, I think we're from here. Okay, so I'm like, okay. I speak to, and then we both kind of look at our uncle because he's the older man in the car, you know, and we ask him, you know, the same question. Where do we come from? My uncle, very relaxed man, calm man, takes a sip of his home brew, and he just says, we come from up there. Now, this knowledge is depending on who you are, sometimes this knowledge is not shared as specifics. You know, we don't necessarily say we come from here on the map. Some people are now kind of figuring out the direction because it has been quite a long time since the movement happened. But some people just say we come from up there. And that's, you know, for me, these are little grains for me that I pick up every time I walk, everywhere I go, trying to figure out where exactly do we come from. Maybe let's go to another photo. This is my father. When he was very young, he was in school at this point. I think the reason that I collected most of these photos is not necessarily because they are photos, and they're very beautiful photos, I think, but it was, I think they always have something very interesting, a further reference somewhere. Like in this one of my colleagues was actually asking, who's the man on the photo that he's holding? And I told him, well, I don't know who he is. You know, I've been trying to find out for years who this man is. It's just a man on this picture. I tried to ask my father. He was just like, you know, this is from my days when I was a child, da, da, da. You know, he never answered specifics. That's another grain, you know. Vamasarira is my grandfather, maternal, my mother's father. He's a very important man in his community at the time. He passed on in the 70s. He was a healer, and he had been traveling throughout Southern Africa. He spoke many languages. Apparently, you know, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him. So, you know, a lot of questions and a lot of gaps sort of exist with this man who's, you know, a very important figure, but also kind of a mythical figure. The reason that I identify as Lemba is because he taught his children that they were Lemba, and they passed it on. And he had a very big family, so he, you know, this identity is very strong within my mother's side. They come together a lot, they sing together a lot. Some of the ideas that I inherited, that I have now, are from this side of the family. And, you know, yeah, it kind of became a bit of a moment for me there, just thinking about that. Maybe let me just go to a sound, which the naming, which is, my name is Tinofire, as I said, and the name Tinofire means, directly means, if you translate it directly, it means why do we die? It's a name which is, it's an ancestral name which is passed down for I don't know how long. But what it actually means is why do we live? The actual meaning of it, when it's explained, is not why do we die, but why do we live? And, you know, so this is maybe a grain for you that I can share. It's a poetry piece.
And what have you learned from living? Inquired Creator. Wasn't I supposed to learn death? The reason we die? Tinofire, you asked. Is that not a question only the dead can answer if allowed back to their kin? Why do we die? For what do we struggle? in our lives, our daily movement from this place to that, from one way of life to a way of living? Am I not to return to those of my skin who seek to know the answer to this question? Will you not grant me leave to return to those who wait clarification on this matter? Those who named me, who remember this name throughout the ages, would seek to know, what is the meaning of this death? Its purpose? This animal we only know as death, this state, for it is one, but it is many, replied I. To which Creator replied, silence. To know life is to know death. To understand life in all its fullness, all its mystery, all its person, that is to know death. To own it, the meanings of it. Your name does not beckon toward death and what is thereafter. It beckons towards life itself, all that is around you, within you, while you live, and live truly, fully. I grant you swift return, but only that you may pass the same question by way of naming to another of your kinsmen. Another child shall be named as you have been, with a question to remain with him for all his days. Return swiftly.
That's the naming. So, you know, before I got into this journey of, you know, seeking this identity or furthering what I know, finding more grains of truth in different things, I was still an artist, you know, practicing. But this project, because now I'm dealing with archives and sometimes it's only memories, you know, it's sometimes it's not physical memories, it's not physical objects, it's, you know, sometimes it's memories, the things that I have, the people that I have conversations with, you know, the things that I'm told, you know, the nature of my work has had to change. This is kind of how I, you know, started looking for photographs and started picking up books. Some of these books actually from within the family that were just kind of passed on. And so these are kind of recent materials that I am using to build my own archive, and this is the archive that I will pass on as well. This is how or what I will do. Can I just close it with something quickly about the Jerusalem part of the journey, the Jerusalem leg, very quick. It's just a transcription from South Tel Aviv, which is kind of where I made my first stop in being here. And, you know, I don't have to tell you about South Tel Aviv, but, you know, this was one of my experiences. My friend, it's tough. Yesterday I got lost in Jerusalem. It's me. Not yesterday, first day. Oh my goodness, man. Today I got on the wrong bus. You also got lost in the central bus station, in the main bus terminus. Oh, of course. Yeah. Everybody. Actually, the purpose of this place is to tell you to get out of Israel. It's a horrible inaudible. To not stay forever. Actually, it's funny because you can't tell which floor. I couldn't. I think I was on the 6th floor or something like that. I couldn't tell. What's the logic of leaving out of the 4th floor? There's no logic. That's their first way of telling you, The person who did New Station, I think, no one gave him other chance to inaudible part. Yeah, it's so horrible. Is there another one before this one or after? Yeah, this is the old one, but not like the new one. Okay. But this, the people took many years, many hours to get out. You ask and then you come down, and then you get up and then you come down. And it doesn't, when you're carrying bags, it's hard. Oh man. But for us, we're lucky because without bag, this is a Sudanese guy who says we came without bags. We don't have nothing. You came? Yep. Can you tell him a little bit about it? This is my friend asking him to tell a little bit about how he came. Or is it too depressing? Yeah, long story. South Tel Aviv.